Hi, I'm Arthen. I'm the finance director at FitXR. Before that, I was working at TrueLayer, both startups in London in the open banking and virtual reality spaces. I think to be a good CFO or to be a good finance team member, you have to really be good with people and have a very good understanding of the business. And that requires talking to people and understanding really what makes the different departments tick, what they need to get to the next stage of the company and what they need to get their job done. You also need to be able to sometimes deliver bad news if people don't get the budget or we don't have the cash for what they need. You need to be able to deliver that news gently and professionally, which requires a lot of people skills and not the sort of numbers orientated finance silo, which I guess in larger organizations and historically has been the stereotype of an accountant. It depends what you mean by financial reporting, but I'd say on the reporting side, 5 to 10 hours a month, maybe. It's hard to say. I don't put a stop clock on myself. What's got me excited at the moment is really anything which lightens the workload of the finance team to free up our time to focus on the insights of the data rather than the gathering of the data or building of spreadsheets, because they're very time consuming and also very prone to error. So anything which takes the time away from the finance team in building up spreadsheets and allows us to have more lean finance teams which are focused on helping our teams build products and really maximizing the efficiency of the startup without building out heavy, clunky, multi-person finance teams. Those are the ones which get me excited. Those tools are getting really good and really efficient. Tools like Calqulate are the next step, of a side which at the moment is very prone to error and very manual. It's an improvement on what was before a clunky method of accessing bank data. So before open banking, there was a method called screen scraping, which essentially you give your login to a fintech or an app, and then they create a virtual login for your bank and just log in with your details. But that's not very secure because you're providing your login details to them and they're making that access for you. What open banking did was make it quicker, more secure and cheaper, so that there's a lot more use cases and ability to access that data than was previously available. I think the B2B side has been quite slow to adapt to it. In terms of financial analytics, a lot of the providers of, say, Xero or QuickBooks had already built in bank feeds but they were just uploading CSVs or a more clunky method of accessing the data, whereas now it's a constant refreshing of the data. So it's really optimizing tech that was there originally. A lot of the open banking products that have come out have been consumer facing. So I think on the B2B side, and especially on the financial analytics side, there's not been a huge push towards building out new product capabilities because of open banking. But I think the advent of open finance and going beyond just the bank data will lead to more sort of business-facing financial products coming out in the future. Very slowly. When the legislation first came out, the banks had a deadline in order to build their open banking APIs and make those available. That deadline got pushed back, and even then it was sort of a tight call that the CMA9 in the UK rolling it out to the rest of Europe has been very slow, much slower than most people in the industry anticipated, or at least those who weren't familiar with the speed at which banks move. But what you're beginning to see is what banks originally saw as a cost center and client's obligation. They're beginning to see the benefits in coming out with premium APIs, which go above and beyond open banking requirements, and for which they can charge an additional fee. So if you want to provide more data beyond what open banking enables, some banks have gone and started to build partnerships with third-party providers like TrueLayer to then say, okay, you can access more than that if you make a call, but you have to pay the bank per API call or per connected account for that access. So I recently moved to a more consumer-facing product from a B2B2C model before, and the way which I'm working with my CMO now, which is very much data-driven, similar to finance in that way, and it's on the more strategic and pricing element of the work. So the work which I do with, say, our CPO or CTO is to understand cash management side of the business, the building up of the product. How much can we afford to put in to get to our targeted milestones? Whereas with the CMO, it's much more on the strategic pricing element as that work as well. But that a lot of that is, in a similar way to finance, a very data-driven way to think about marketing has emerged over the past, 10 years, I'd say, especially with companies like Facebook who give you a lot more metrics to work with than previously used to be available. So I think one way which I really work well with the CMO is to understand the CAC and our market positioning, and really working on that sort of financial analysis element of my job for the future looking piece, market positioning, that element, and really trying to make that as data based as we can. I think with the COVID lockdowns and everyone being inside, it's been replacing real life experiences, but that's only for this time period that it's replacing. I think VR is never going to replace the real world. It will offer a different solution. So you've seen Travis Scott in Fortnite doing a concert where he goes into 40-foot tall, and it's really pushing the boundaries of what is possible. So it won't just be the replication of a real life event in virtual reality. It will be really understanding what is possible in virtual reality and pushing the boundaries of that. So I think at the moment we've seen a lot of push. So for FitXR, we're replacing gyms at a time when gyms are closed. What I think a lot of people will then realize is that experience suits them better than a gym, and it may replace it in that sense. But I don't think that the intention is that VR fully replaces real life. It will allow you to do things which you weren't otherwise capable of doing. So you can fit in an exercise in 20 minutes where you couldn't make it to the gym before. You can now do that at home. The intention is to do something different to what it is real life, rather than replace it like for like. I've often found that in my job, the part which I'm enjoying the most is during fundraising rounds when people are asking questions. It provides me with a different viewpoint for the company itself, and it helps to sort of streamline my thoughts on where and what to focus on. Being on the other side of that table as a VC would be very interesting, and I think it suits my mindset quite a lot. As a CFO, I'm trying to provide the same advice on how to make the company the most valuable company it can be to the CEO, sort of taking that internal optimizing angle and moving it to the external sort of market facing angle, and market sizing is something which interests me quite a lot.